Hi, and welcome to Transformation Now. We are dedicated to motivating and inspiring programs to give you hope, help, humor, and heart, whether it's in life, career, relationships, finances, whatever it may be. So we want to welcome you here today.
Today we have an exciting show with Cheri Dickmeyer, Finding Your True Identity.
And I would love to first ask you a couple of questions, and that is, are there times in your life where you don't really see how awesome, capable, and strong you really are? And how do you self-identify? Are you experiencing and embracing all of your gifts and talents? Greetings, I'm Rita Rocker Kraft, creator, producer, and host of Transformation Now, which is part of SoaringHigher.rocks. And as a speaker, author, and trainer, my heart and my passion is to really help you to overcome and to grow in your life and your career. So we welcome you here today.
Hello everyone, my name is Carmelita De La Guardia and I am co-host and also coordinator of women's issues, international issues, and an international cabaret singer and writer as far as in writing music, and Italian, well I always say Italian because I'm Italian, but Spanish and English medical translator.
Great, thank you. And now I have the privilege of introducing Cheri Dickmeyer to you. She is the founder and the executive director of Fit Girl, which is an awesome program providing 12-week holistic programs that not only guide girls into finding their true selves and who they really are, but this really also impacts their mothers, their futures, their life in general, their careers. And it's very, very powerful. So she's truly amazing. So let's get on with the program.
Thank you, Rita.
Welcome.
Thank you, Carla.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So Cheri, please share with us some of the main points of your life growing up and how this has impacted you where you are today and the path you have chosen.
Yeah, great question. You know, I had an aha moment a couple years ago that directly relates to this question. I really think my path was laid out before me based off of my experiences, my education, and what I learned as a kid. And you don't see that when you're young, but I had two amazing parents. I still have my dad today that taught my brothers and I a lot about serving the community, giving back. Sometimes my parents would work 2 jobs and still do all this volunteerism. And I watched that and learned from that. Also involved in church youth groups, chose the right social circles. So the choices that I made early on in my life is what got me to where I am today with my journey. And you don't see that, but that's why with Fit Girl and why I started it, I really want these kids to understand that what they do, who they choose to be around, whether it's health and wellness or mental and physical peace, what they do today will greatly impact their journey and who they are as an adult. Because I see that for myself. You know, my family is very involved in athletics. We're very active. You know, back then, maybe not so much the nutrition, health, and wellness piece. I think back in the 70s and 80s, we were all eating awful. But we're still very, very active. I just came from very lucky to come from a great family dynamic that, you know, made me who I am today.
That's wonderful.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Cheri, as an adult, I know you've had some difficult issues to deal with,
Yeah.
like we all have, but you mentioned before going through a painful divorce, which many of us have experienced, and like, where do I go from here now? What do I do? And starting over, and sometimes that's painful and that's hard. You also have a daughter with epilepsy, and I know that is, you know, a challenge at times as well. So how has that affected your life and the experiences? You know, how does that help you help other people who are in similar situations, because you've been there and you've done that?
Yeah, you know.
And share other stories too. You don't have to stick to those.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, divorce for anyone, man or woman, is hard. It's hard. It's painful. Even if both parties are friendly about it, you're still starting over. your identity a lot of times is associated with, and your self-worth with
Yes.
who you're married to, or your family dynamics. And so, once you're divorced, you're now a new label, a single parent, a divorcee. You're seen differently. Sometimes those things have negative connotations that you have to deal with. So there's a lot that goes in that, but especially when you have kids, it's really difficult. How are you not going to let this impact them? And of course it's going to, especially if they're young. How do you stay strong? How do you move forward? Those were things where I had to really pull an inner strength and figure out who I really was. And I think sometimes when we get married, especially when we get married at a young age, we lose who we are. Especially as a mom, our identity is a lot of times a direct reflection of what we can do for others, how we can help our family, how we can help our kids, how we can help our husband, and you kind of lose yourself, I think, a little bit. And I think just trying to figure out at that time where I was going, what I was going to do as a single parent, how I was going to raise my girls, I had to reach out to a lot of people. And I had to ask for help. And thank goodness I had friends that were, honest and humble and vulnerable, and said, this is what I went through. And I had friends going through some of the same things, and I was able to learn from a lot of their experiences. And it's too bad that they had to go through that as well, but it helped others, it helped myself get through what I needed to get through, knowing that I wasn't alone, that there were other women before me that also had to tackle this issue and how they got through it, and then where they were today, and they were doing well and thriving. So it gave me hope, because divorce is hard. It's really hard. My daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 7. This is my oldest daughter. And during the divorce, she stopped taking her medication.
Oh, no.
Wasn't aware of that, and now looking back, I know it was because of her trying to get attention, just her way of dealing with the divorce. But she was having, this is when she was in middle school, she was having seizure after seizure after seizure, and she has grand mal seizures. So to watch that is emotionally, mentally exhausting.
Yes.
It's incredibly stressful. The grand mal, you lose all bodily functions, you can't breathe. So each time she had a seizure, I told myself, I'm going to lose her. That's what you're thinking each and every time, and she was having a lot. So that broke me down quite a bit, because you can't, there's no diagnosis, there's no treatment, there's no treatment for epilepsy. It's hard to figure out if there's things that we can do that help prevent it, the seizures. And I, at that time, didn't know that she wasn't taking the medications. I just thought she was going through a period. We finally figured it out, that she wasn't taking the medication, and that's why. But there was at one point where she was having multiple seizures in one day, and we were at Children's Hospital for most of the day, and during the middle of the day, they let us go. So she was having them all morning. They cleared us at the middle of the day and said, you can go now. And as soon as we got into the parking lot, she started having a seizure again. And ER comes and takes her and puts her back into Children's. And I remember at that point, I just sank to the floor of the hospital floor, and I probably cried for like an hour, and then just sat there and prayed. Give me hope, give me strength, and then I just had to keep telling myself over and over, because again, I was going through divorce too at that time. We were right in the middle of the divorce. It was all of it at once, and I thought, okay, God only gives me what I can handle. God only gives me what I can handle. And I just had to keep saying that over and over, and like, I can do this, I can do this. And having 2 girls, you can't give up. You don't have an option. You can't give up. I mean, you can, but you can't. And I wanted them to know that you can pull through this, So got back up on my feet. We figured out a game plan. With my 2 daughters, it was actually a lot of fun, because we said, you know what, we're going to be a team. We're going to tackle this together, and we're going to make this work. And my girls are great. They're really resilient. Of course, they're always going to be dealing with issues because of the divorce as they get older and they start dating as well. But we pulled through it. But it was hard. It was really hard. There was times I wanted to give up.
What are their ages?
16 and 19 now. Yes.
Cheri, how do you see your codependency, as far as fear of being vulnerable, keeping us from sharing our valuable stories that actually bring us the support we need and help others along the way?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I think a lot of us, transparency is hard, I think, for a lot of people, especially when you're in a position where you're saying, I can help you or I can help others. Because I think people see codependency or flaws as a weakness in a lot of cases. And I think women should be wearing their failures and their flaws like a badge of honor, because I think that's what makes us stronger and gets us to where we need to be. I don't think you can have that inner strength. I don't think you can be as strong as you possibly can without going through some of those challenges and obstacles and learning from others. But I really think that women are missing an opportunity to develop really deep connections and become who they really need to be without these supportive circles and without women letting other women know that they've gone through that or they've had pain. And we all have. Everybody's gone through something.
Yes.
But a lot of people just don't want to share that for fear of rejection, for fear of ridicule, for fear of judgment. I think judgment's a big thing. I wish we would all stop judging each other because we've all gone through something. But I think it almost starts, back in grade school. Sometimes I feel like that as an adult too, that, we're sitting around in these circles and no one's really wanting to share what they're truly feeling because they don't want to be judged, or they want to fit in and be one of the cool kids. And that's too bad, because I think there's, I belong to a lot of different networking circles and events and a lot of women's groups. And I keep hearing the same theme over and over and over. And it's women saying, I feel lonely. And we have 5,000 friends on Facebook, but these women are still saying, I feel lonely, I feel empty. And I think that's because we've got all these empty connections. Everything to me, it seems like sometimes is subsurface. We can see things, but we're not really learning a lot about each other because we're not sharing what needs to be shared. And I think it's just being comfortable in your own skin, self-esteem. And I have no problem letting people know. When I was first, somebody told me, one of my good friends, that she's like, you're codependent. And this had to deal with go back to my marriage. And I said, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? And labels kind of drive me nuts anyway, but sometimes that's the only thing we can say or do to explain something. So she's like, yes, you need to look into it. And I'm like, no, I'm not, And I denied it for a really long time. And I had to peel the layers and figure out, oh, you know what? But then on the other hand, another friend came to me and she said, but if you weren't that, you may never have started Fit Girl. So yeah, exactly. So you've got that part, which you need to embrace, which I did. Yeah. I claimed it, after denial. But then I realized, you know what? Yeah. That codependency kind of drove me to want to help others, want to help these kids. And maybe, people say sometimes, I'm an empath, I feel things, and I think I do. Deeply, and it's hard to compare that to others because I don't know sometimes how others feel, but I remember as a young girl, I would always tell my parents, my mom would always tell me that I'd go into restaurants and if I saw like an elderly man or woman sitting by themselves,
I do the same thing.
I felt so awful, yes. And my mom said it would just ruin my day. Yes, the empathy and compassion.
Same thing.
So yeah, that's who I am. So I claimed it, I owned it. Yeah, you just need to know you've got to have boundaries, right? Exactly. And you just got to make sure that you're attracting the right people into your life that deserve, your attention and your time to be helped. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm a moderate empath, and so I understand exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
And it's that heart, whether it's people or animals,
Yeah, like we were just talking about the animals.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels good. Doesn't
it
feel
does.
good.
Yes.
You're helping. You know,
Yes.
feeling that maybe you can help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
please join us at our
Yes.
table. We'd love to have you
Yes.
join us to eat. I've done that before.
Yeah, right? I know.
Yeah, made a friend that way. But and then too, just to kind of expand on what you were just talking about, the importance of embracing our uniqueness, because so many times we compare what I was saying earlier, our liabilities that we consider with what we consider other people's assets, and we see all the I wish I was like her. She has this, that, or him, all this, but gee, I don't have any of this. And so we compare that a lot of times and don't really embrace our own uniqueness and the gifts that we have and the talents that God gave us that we have.
Yeah.
And then, and so like you're kind of saying, that impacts having surface connections, but not the deep connections. We all need deep connections to really share when we're wounded, when we're bruised, with people who will be there and support us and not just sit there in judgment. I totally agree with you. There's way too much judgment going on, usually because the one judging has their own set of problems, and so they're throwing it out there and putting it on someone else.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that a whole lot. So just embracing our uniqueness. Do you have any suggestions for people on that, how they see themselves?
Yeah, that's hard, because as we get older, I think it gets even harder. And that's why we push that a lot in our Fit Girl classes. So our Fit Girl classes start with girls at age 8. And just imagine if you were 8 years old back then and heard messages that we say in Fit Girl all the time, and help kids understand and pull their strengths out. A lot of these kids, no one's asking them the right questions, so they don't know what their strengths are, or they don't know what they like because they're conforming. They just want to fit in, which is a rite of passage anyway. That's always going to happen. That's just who we are as a young girl transitions. She wants to find her tribe. She wants to find out where she fits in. But then if they're finding a tribe where that isn't celebrating who they truly are, they feel bad about themselves. Their self-esteem drops. So it's very, very important, I think, early on for these kids to learn about uniqueness. And instead of, in Fit Girl, we kind of do it differently. So instead of focusing on each individual girl pulling out her uniqueness, which we teach, we emphasize more, though, on that compassion and empathy. So, because to me, I think it's easier to have these kids understand a lot more about diversity and inclusion and embracing that uniqueness than trying to drive home to one individual at a time that they need to celebrate their uniqueness. So if we were all just more compassionate and empathetic towards the differences in each other, maybe we would be able to more easily pull out our own uniqueness and share it with others. But these kids are so darn scared to do that because they, we have stories where there's kids eating lunch in bathrooms at high school. Oh yeah, because they are scared of lunch period. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it's stuff like that. A young girl that we knew had vomited her lunch in 4th grade. And we had a mentor work with her and her mom for over a year to get her back into the lunchroom because she was so devastated by just being embarrassed from the kids and the ridicule that we couldn't get her back into the lunchroom to eat lunch. And it took a year. Finally, we got her there. But these kids are so scared of each other. And with social media now, it's just made it worse. And there's always been stuff like that, of course. But I think it's just at a new level now. With social media, because it's not just that 1-on-1 or the 1 in 5. Now you can post something and it goes to 2,000 kids in high school. So just like my daughter and her epilepsy, she withdrew from everything. As soon as she started having seizures, and she wouldn't even let her or put on an epileptic band because she didn't want to be different. She didn't want kids to know that she has epilepsy. And I can sit there all day and tell her, this is something that God gave you, and you might not understand it now, but it's going to be something that will help you help others. But you try to tell a 12 and 13-year-old that, forget it. They don't, they're not going to listen. They just know that they're different and they don't want to be different. And so I think now, I think it's changing a little bit and we're seeing a shift. And it's cool to be different, where it wasn't back in the days, Now kids are like, okay, yeah, and they better because things are changing. And I think these kids, in order for them to really thrive, going forward in society, they better start embracing each other's differences and uniqueness, because I think it's going to be a lonely, lonely world if we don't,
That's
you know,
for
for these kids. Yeah.
That is for sure.
Well, I was going to talk to you about the bullying. You know, I mean, you kind of spoke a little bit about that. Values, comparisons, you know.
Yeah.
Likes and self-esteem.
Yeah.
And build outside of a social media. Okay, so
Yeah.
screen time, wasted time for so much social media. What do you think on that? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you've talked a little bit about that, but
Yeah, the social media is a big deal. You know, hopefully we'll see it go full circle, and this is just kind of a new bright and shiny thing in our lives, and we'll get over it. But right now, it is impacting these kids. So as adults, you know, and I don't care who you are, if you're on social media and you see somebody that's showing off a new car or a new house that they're laying on a beach in Cancun while you're working 75 hours a week just to make ends meet, there's a little bit of animosity there.
Yes,
There's a
there is.
little bit of jealousy, even if you're an adult. Now, take a 12-year-old female brain that is on a phone for 8 hours, scrolling through images all day long. That's going to mess up a kid. And it is, because they're just seeing this, you know, false sense of what life is really all about. And it's really, really sad. And, you know, we've all heard the stats, but you know, these kids, it's an addiction now because it gives, you know, the same dopamine like in drugs. So these kids want these likes because now it's easier if they don't fit in. And my oldest daughter did this. If they don't fit in the real world, but they can get some likes on an Instagram post, then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to keep going back to that phone because that's fulfilling that need that they have to be liked and to have that, you know, that likability, where in the real world, maybe they're weird or they're awkward, but maybe they can do something cool. And that's why, you know, young girls showing off their bodies, you know, just the things that I see on social media is crazy. And I think we as parents need to police these posts a little bit better. And I know some parents are a little hesitant to do that, but not necessarily judging these kids, but trying to direct them and help them understand why they're doing that, and maybe try to figure out where they can get that strong sense of worth somewhere else. And through Fit Girl, that's why we try to get them active and get them involved in other things. So trying to help them. We had one young girl who wasn't interested in sports, but she went through our program for almost 3 years, and we built up her confidence so much so she's like, and I kind of knew she was going to take this path, but she wanted to be in drama. And so she understands the physical and the health benefits of being active, but she wanted to do something that related to her personality, you know. And that's okay. That's why, you know, with Fit Girl, we try to explain to people it's not just about sports. It's just keeping them active and building up that self-esteem so that they feel good enough about themselves to want to go out and try something, put themselves out there. She tried out for drama and made it the senior team or whatever her freshman year, and she told her mom called me and said, I found my peeps. This is my tribe. I'm super happy. You know, maybe she would have got there without Fit Girl, but you know, it took us 3 years to really build her up and build that self-esteem. And now she's doing that. And I think, you know, these kids are just, they're just needing a little bit more direction so that we can get them off these cell phones. Because, the cyberbullying, the self-esteem, the body shaming, the body image, that's all there. And it's sad to watch these kids go through that.
Yes, it is. Okay, we only have like a minute or two left, so I wanted you to be sure and let our people know about teen mentoring and about volunteers and how others can help you in this area.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So we are expanding and growing. We're coming to Fremont, which we're super excited about, and doing some work both in North and South Omaha. And we do always need volunteers to help us facilitate the curriculums. So you can either reach out to us online through our website, fitgirlinc.com. Our phone number is in the top right corner, so please feel free to give us a call if you have questions. But we have classes also in Northwest Omaha right now with up to 50 kids, and we're always looking for people that want to give back and donate some of their time to help us with these classes.
Excellent.
Sounds
Excellent.
wonderful. Well, we're going to wrap up, don't you think?
Yeah, there's one
Yes.
more question if you want to ask
Should I
about
go
God
ahead?
giving us identity.
Absolutely, yes.
We have
What
1
are your
minute.
thoughts, or God, because of the time here, but anyway, what are your thoughts on God giving our self-identity and his path for us?
Yeah, such a good question, because I just read a book, The Truest Thing About You, that was given to me by a mentor that I'm working with right now. The self-identity is huge. We are not what we do. And I think we have to remember that our path is laid out by somebody else. And I think we all attach ourselves too much to the identity piece, and we put all our eggs in one basket. And then when that identity is gone, for instance, an empty nest, a mom that loses the kids, they go off to college, or if Fit Girl were to end tomorrow, you know, how devastating that would be, because my identity is tied into that. This book was absolutely amazing, and I learned, it freed me, it gave me peace, knowing that my identity is not tied to who I am, what I do, and what I desire. And the one quote that I remember from the book that I'll end with is, we become who we are. And that, we become who we are, right?
Who
we
we
do.
see ourselves to be.
Right?
We're all in
Yeah,
that.
Yes.
exactly. So,
Thank
yeah.
you so
That,
much.
Yeah.
that is so important and so strong.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cheri, I want to thank you so
Thank
much
you for
today.
having
It's
me.
been awesome. And again, to our viewers, we'd love to have you look up Fit Girl and Cheri Dickmeyer, and you can connect with her and see ways that you can help impact not only the girls, but their mothers, their families, their relationships, their future in general. So again, God loves you. We love you. We look forward to having you come back and join us next time with Melissa Benashin, who has a really great story about dealing with things that were out of view to everybody else. So we'll see you later. Thank you.
Bye-bye.